All right, so chapter 25, it kind of goes into decision making, and that's what we're going to, kind of wind up the course. We've done a lot of stuff on finding out what the costs are and all that, but this is going to be actually for decision making. And you hear that stampede? That's my 13-pound dog running back and forth. Okay, so differential analysis is what we're going to concentrate on for this last chapter. And basically it says that if you have a decision to make, that there must be things that differ between the alternatives. Okay, so differing between the alternatives, and this goes for any decision, but we're going to kind of narrow it down a little more for what we're looking at. But an example I always use is the Happy Meal example. You have a choice between two Happy Meals. And the question is, what items in there are relevant to making a decision? Well, to be relevant to the decision, they have to be different. So for instance, that one. The Coca-Colas, these are not relevant because whether you get Happy Meal A or Happy Meal B, you're going to get Coca-Cola. So these two are not relevant. The only thing that's relevant are because they differ. Now, this is only for the decision. This is not, we're not saying that you don't want the Coke and the fries. We're not saying that you don't want to pay for them or anything like that. But the decision is dependent on hamburger, cheeseburger. Nothing else matters. So when we talk about the differential analysis, we're talking about that there has to be a difference between the two. For most business decisions, the sales and or cost must differ between alternatives to be relevant. So, this is just for any decision, but up here for business decisions, you're generally looking at the sales or cost usually, what we're looking for. Just kind of. Okay. All right, so that's why I had this thing turned up a little brighter. Okay. All right, so now we have production alternatives below, and down here we have product C and product D, and most of the sales are exactly the same, but the costs are different. So these are the only things that are relevant. The sales are not relevant. Not that we don't want the sales, we want the sales, we want the money coming in and all that, but for the decision, it's not relevant. So the whole thing about here is about making a decision. Okay, a couple other things. They talk about costs, and there are things that are not relevant. Sunk costs are one of those things that are not relevant. Sunk cost is the cost of something you paid in the past. So if you paid whatever it is, you paid $1,000 for a piece of machinery a year ago, that is a sunk cost. It's not relevant. You say, well, I paid $1,000 for that just a year. It doesn't matter. You can't jump in the, and it doesn't make any sunk costs are not relevant to any business decision because they can't differ between alternatives. There's no way that you can go back in time and change this purchase of equipment. So it's a sunk cost. The sunk cost is that it's not relevant because they can't change. It'll be the same, whether you pick, for instance, if it was up here related to these two, whether you pick product C or product D, doesn't matter. If you paid this $1,000, it's not going to change between the alternatives. It doesn't differ. So sunk costs, any historical costs, anything you've already paid is not relevant. You can't change it. It's not going to differ. It's like the Coca-Colas or the French fry, whatever. You can't change it. Okay, opportunity costs are relevant, and opportunity costs are sort of like another alternative for whatever investment you're thinking about making. For example, if you had these two investments, and one investment was for $5,000, pay back $700, another one was for $8,000, pay back this. However, if you could put the money in the bank and earn 5%, 5% interest, the lost 5% interest is the opportunity cost. So in other words, you gave up this 5% you could earn on your money to make these investments. So those are opportunity costs, and those are relevant. They're almost like a third, or in this case a third, but they're almost like an additional alternative for the use for the money. So opportunity costs are one of those things that they are relevant to the decision. And where it comes for students, the cost of school, you have your tuition, books, room and board, all the normal things that you'd think about for the cost of going to school, transportation, all that kind of stuff. But you also have an opportunity cost. That instead of going to school, you could be working, taking an additional job or full-time or something like that. So that's also part of it, is that you can actually be making money doing something else besides going to school. That's an opportunity cost. You can't take that full-time job or work that extra job because you're going to school. So an opportunity cost of going to school would be the additional money that you would be making if you weren't going to school and you were working another job. So these opportunity costs, the opportunity costs are real because they're sort of like another alternative. This would be an alternative of you not going to school. I don't think it's a good idea, but the idea is the same. The total cost would be the money that you would be earning if you weren't going to school. Additional money you'd be earning. Okay. Well, we're going to, there are two types of these costs that are fairly common that we're going to talk about for this chapter. We're not going to go over everything in the chapter, but we're going to talk about a few things. And one is the one-time special order. I'm going to start with on page 2. And then on page 5, we're going to do make or buy. This will be next week. So next week, we'll go to the make or buy. This week, we'll do the one-time special orders. After we do this, give you guys a practice test and the exam, and you'll have a week to turn it in, and that'll be it for class. Okay. I cannot get this thing to stop curling off. Paper. Well, now it's going the other way. Now I got to add it. Okay. So one-time special order. Now, the one-time special order is when somebody comes to you and they want to make a big order, usually. There's usually a large order of items. Anyone who wants a large order of items, they usually want a good price for it. They say, okay, well, I don't want to pay the regular price. I can always do that. But if I order a bunch of them, can I get a good price, a better price than you give to other people? And so that's what this was, a one-time special order. It's usually a big order. And a reduced price. And the question is, should you take it? Okay, so let's take a look here. XYZ Corporation, as follows. Okay, so this is their production of military. So they're producing this many 10,000 units. They're selling for $50 each, and these are the costs. And someone else would like a one-time special order components as follows. So they want to buy 2,500 of them. So that's probably a pretty big order. Yeah, but they want a really good price. They say, okay, we want those to, we want to pay $30 for them because this is a big order. We want a special price. The question is, should you take it? So this is kind of the question here of, should you take it? Okay, so it says XYZ has this excess capacity to produce a special order without changing the regular production. Okay, so the regular production is going to keep going on, and they can also produce a special order. So here are the alternatives. Let's say A and B. So A would be that we would take the special order and we would still make our regular production. B would be no special order, and we'd make our regular production. Okay, so for the decision, the regular production is not relevant. So these are exactly the same. These are like the, I'm using a page. These are like the Coca-Cola and the French fry. They're the same, so they're not part of the decision. We're not saying that they're not important. They're not saying that we're going to stop the production or anything like that. We're saying that it's for the decision, they're not relevant. So the regular production is not relevant. The only thing that's relevant is special order. It's going to change between the alternatives. So we're going to focus only on the special order, not because the regular production isn't important. It's just not relevant. To make a decision, we don't need to. Okay. So we're going to focus on just this special order. The reason we're focusing on that is that the regular production isn't going to change. Because it's not going to change, it doesn't matter for the decision whether to take this or not. Okay, so we're going to look for this. By the way, this is called differential analysis. Sometimes it's called incremental analysis, and I'll show you why they call it that. Sometimes it's sort of like how much additional would it be added. So what we're going to do is see what our additional sales would be. What would our additional variable cost be? Additional fixed cost. And down here, we'll get our additional income or profit, however you want to put it. So these are costs that are going out. Okay. So additional sales. Okay, well, the selling price is $30, and this is for 2,500 units. Whatever that is. So this will add 75,000 to the sales. The variable cost. Too dark. Let me try. Variable cost per unit is 25. So now these are additional costs, so these will decrease the money coming in. This is the additional cost that you're paying out. Additional fixed costs. Additional fixed costs are a little bit tricky. And here's why. Fixed costs do not change. So unless they tell you something that the fixed costs have changed, they don't change. So fixed costs do not change. So usually, fixed costs are not relevant. General rules are not relevant. Think about our thing up here. So for instance, if they are paying rent, fixed rent. Oops. Let's try this again. Fixed rent, they're paying the same amount of rent every month. It doesn't matter whether they take a special order or not. It's not going to change. So it's not going to differ between alternatives. So fixed costs generally are not relevant. So when it comes down here, what's the additional fixed cost? 0. You say, well, wait a minute. It's $15 each, isn't it? Well, that's divided by 10,000 units. So this is the total of this is whatever. 150,000. So if this was, say, rent, it's not going to go up. You just spread it out over, instead of 10,000 units, 10,000 plus the 2,500. But the fixed cost, if you're paying rent, if this is rent, it's not going to change. So the additional fixed costs are 0. Yes, you have to put that in now, really. Okay, so additional income. So should they accept the order? Yes. Income will increase by so if this is positive, the additional income, you want to take the order. All right, so should they take it? Yes, they should take it. Should they use this marker that's way too dark? No, they should not. All right. Light this up now. Okay. So yes, income will increase by 12,000. It sounds like a cross. So the additional 12,000. So yes, you want to do it. What would be the impact on total fixed costs? Unchanged. The rent doesn't change, for instance. And so, yeah, this is one that people get kind of get tricked out. But if you think about it, the fixed costs are not going to change. So, yeah, it'll generally be zero, unless they tell you something that says, okay, the fixed costs are going to increase or something like that. But generally speaking, unless they tell you something different, it's not going to change. Okay. This one is similar. Special orders appear at the top. So this is, what are they selling? Control, I don't know, whatever it is. They're selling them, they usually sell them for $140 each, but this someone comes in and says, look, I want a big order. I want 10,000 of them, but I want a good price because it's a really big order. So I want to pay $85. Now they're usually selling for $140, but again, this is a big order and you may want to take it because you know, it may give you additional income. Okay, so same thing we did before. And again, we because they have the capacity, they can reduce the special order without changing regular production. So regular production is not relevant. If it did change regular production, it would be relevant, but it's not changing. So. And usually when they change regular production, a lot of times you don't want to do it because, you know, if you were selling the same units, you'd much rather sell them at 140 than at 85. So if you had to reduce your regular production to sell these, you probably won't want to do it. So. Okay. So our additional sales will be $85 times 10,000 units. I think it was 850,000. Yeah. So our sales will increase by 850,000. our additional variable cost. Now, they don't give us the variable cost per unit. They only give us the total. Well, we can get the variable cost per unit by taking the total and dividing it by the units. So we're going to divide this by so this is if we divide it by the units, that'll give us our variable cost per unit, whatever that is. So we're going to take $1 million divided by 25,000. 40. Okay, so this goes and we'll make this stick with the orange, I guess. It's 400,000. That's a cost, so that'll be negative. Ah. Okay. See the easy. Let's try this. All right. So, fixed. Oh, color coordinate these. So this is that 40, and this is the same 10,000 we had from our special order. Again, this is, I should leave this. This is the special order only. Yeah, you know, I mean, there's, remember, the rate of production is not relevant. So we're only going to do this, we're only doing the special order. Fixed cost is 0. They don't tell us anything different about the fixed cost. So it's 450, isn't it? 450,000. Yep. So would they want to take the, should the order be accepted? Yes. We don't read it. Yes. Income will increase. Income will increase by 450 special order accepted. So yeah, you can do it. And again, this 13 or 1,300,000 is not going to change. It's fixed. You know, rent or whatever that is not going to change because of this. So that's why that 0 comes in. Those fixed costs are not going to change. They're fixed. Okay. Let's go to page number 4. Problem 4. Looks a little blurry here. Try something. One more different thing here. And then this doesn't work. I'm going to say forget it. Okay, let's forget it. All right, so let's go ahead and do this one, same as the other one. And again, we're just doing this for the special order only. Some people ask, do I have to put these in? You know, do you have to put those in? No, you really don't, unless they were to change, but you don't have to put those in. I put them in just so that people know I've considered it, even though they're not relevant. All right. All right, let's see, special order. Uh, 45 times 3,000. Variable costs. We have to figure these out. The variable cost per unit. Maybe those are orange. This comes out to be $50. So this is the variable. Variable cost per unit is that. Is the same 3,000 there. Okay, so this is that's not right. Hold on. I'm missing. Yeah. So this would be, it's 150,000. All right, so it'll be negative 135 minus 150, 3, negative 15,000. Oops. So this would be a no. You'd be losing 15,000. And you can kind of see that before you even go through the calculation. If you have been through it, if you have a micro econ yet, they talk about you'll produce as long as your selling price covers the variable costs. Well, that's what they're talking about. That you're not going to produce these because your selling price is less than the variable cost. So you're not going to do it. So no, they don't want to do this. So no, they don't want to take the special order. Reason being, income will decrease by 15,000 if we take it. And again, you can kind of see that already. Selling something for 45 when you're paying 50 for it is not going to lead to a profit. So, you know, your selling price does not cover your variable cost. You generally don't do it. So, you know, you'd be losing 15,000 if you were to take the special order. So this one you would not want to take. I think that's it for tonight. So these are one-time special orders, and they're not too hard, but they but you know, a few things that what's relevant. You know, for the special order, what's relevant, only the special order is going to be relevant because regular production, if it doesn't change, it's not. And fixed costs generally are not relevant. So if they don't, you know, if they don't change, and fixed costs usually don't, they're not relevant. So that's it for this one. Next class, we'll finish up the last 4 pages. I'll give you guys a practice test, and that will be it.
All right.
Any questions?
No, it's pretty good.
All right. Have a good evening.
You as well. Bye.
Bye.